Hello students, and welcome back to another algebra video. You know what to do. Pause the video, try this problem in your notes, and then unpause it to do it with me. Okay, write an equation in slope-intercept form. That means we want y equals mx plus b. So write an equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. Okay, you know we need to find what m is, we need to find what b is. So let's do m first, since that's, well, we actually need, x1, y1, x2, y2. We actually need to know m in order to find b. So if you tried to do b first and plug in one of these points for x and y, you can't solve for b because you don't know what m is yet. So we actually have to do m first. So m is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that is y. We're talking about y. y2 is 3 minus y1 is -1. Okay, now x2, 4 minus x1, -4. Okay, remember, minus a negative becomes positive, minus negative becomes positive. So 3 plus 1 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. Can we reduce 4/8? Yes, we can. If we divide by 2 on the top and the bottom, we get 1/2. So m is equal to 1/2. All right, now we're going to write y equals 1/2 x plus b. Pick one of these points. Which one do you want? I'm going to take the positive one, the one with positive numbers, because I think positive numbers are easier to work with. So if we take 4, 3, that means x is 4 and y is 3. Okay, so 3 equals 1/2 times 4, that's a 4, plus b. What is 1/2 of 4? 2. So we have 3 equals 2 plus b minus 2 on both sides. 3 minus 1, oh, excuse me, 3 minus 2 is 1. So that makes b equal to 1. And now we know what m is, we know what b is, so we have y equals mx plus b. And there you go. We are done. Okay, so that was slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. That was a review of what we did in the last video. Let's move on to what we have for this video. This video is the start of section 4.2, and 4.2 is about point slope form. So the entry task was slope-intercept form. Now today, we're going to move on and talk about a different form, point slope form. So our learning target and our success criteria comes in 2 parts. The first part, part A, is I know what an equation of a line in point slope form is. So what is point slope form? And part A of our success criteria is I can write equations of lines in point slope form. So the first part of our learning target and success criteria has to do with what is point slope form. Okay, and part B is I know the difference between point slope form and slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form was yesterday or last video. Point slope form is today. And maybe instead of yesterday and today, we'll write 4.1 and 4.2. So in 4.1, we learned all about slope-intercept form. In 4.2, we're going to talk about point-slope form. So part B of the success criteria is I can change an equation from point-slope form to slope-intercept form. So you can go in between 4.1 and 4.2. That is the second part of the success criteria. So what is point-slope form and how does it relate to slope-intercept form? Those are the two things that we are trying to learn in this video. So let's move on to what is point-slope form. Let's finish the first part of our learning target. What is point-slope form? Well, point-slope form is a linear equation, so we're still talking about lines, but instead of being written in y equals mx plus b, remember that is slope-intercept form, point-slope form still talks about lines, but instead of being y equals mx plus b, it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So it looks something like this. Y minus 1 equals 2/3 times x plus 6. So they're a little bit different, and notice that, y equals mx plus b looks a little bit simpler. That's why we learned about y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept form first, is because it's a little bit simpler than point-slope form. But sometimes point-slope form can actually be easier. It looks a little bit more complicated, but it can actually be easier sometimes. So that's why we're going to learn about it. All right, now some more information about point-slope form. Why did we call, remember, slope-intercept form was y equals mx plus b? Do you remember why it was called slope-intercept form? It's because m is our slope and b is our intercept. So the only things you need to make this equation are the slope and the intercept. Boom. And if you look at the equation, you can immediately see the slope and the y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. Today, we're talking about point-slope form. So what do you think we're going to need for point-slope form? Well, we're going to need a point and a slope. And that's exactly what we're going to do, is we're going to be given a point, we're going to be given a slope, and then we can write y minus the y-coordinate of our point equals the slope times x minus the x-coordinate of our point. And I know if you're like, whoa, you're talking way too fast, change the playback speed. But also, we're going to talk a lot more about this in our first example, so don't worry if this is too fast right now. On a graph, this is what point-slope form looks like. We have our point that they are giving us. They're going to give us 1 point, and then they also give us the slope. And remember, the slope is equal to the difference in y-coordinates and the difference in x-coordinates. And if we know those two things, right, together, this makes up the slope. So if we have a point and we have the slope, we can actually have another point. Like implicitly, we have another point, and then connect the dots. There's our line. So this is what point-slope form looks like on a graph. Okay, all right. So line passes through the point x1, y1. So when you see these x1 and y1, that means those are the coordinates of the point they give us. So if they give us 3, 4, then this would be y minus 4 and x minus 3. It just depends on the point that they give us. And then, of course, m is our slope. Just like before, m is the slope. Okay, I think we are ready to move on. Ooh, okay. We're going to move on to our first example. This is some background information. So if this is confusing to you, you do not need to watch this part of the video. You don't need to understand this part of the video. But I highly encourage you to try to understand it, because this is, where does point slope form come from? How did we make, right, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1? Where did this come from? Who thought of this? Why? Well, the why is because what happens if I only have one point and the slope? I don't have 2 points. I don't know what the intercept is. What if I just have 1 point and the slope? Well, this is going to be the easiest way to write an equation of that line. So that's why. But how? How did we make this? Where did this come from? And the answer is the slope, the formula for slope. So if we take the formula for slope and we get y by itself, so see what they did? They took the formula for slope, and then they actually substituted some values. So they were given the slope and they were given a point 2, 3. Then if you multiply by x minus 2 on both sides, you get, right, the x minus 2 goes away on this side. You get 1/2 times x minus 2 equals y minus 3. And that is your point slope form. All they did was they took the slope and they plugged a point into it. And then they multiplied, got y minus 3 equals blah, 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 blah. So if you didn't fully understand that, that's okay, but this is where it comes from. And I think it can be helpful to look at where does point slope come from, because otherwise it's hard to trust it. Do I trust this formula without knowing where it came from? So, there you have it. All right, let's move on to our first example. So, write an equation in point slope form of the line that passes through the point -8, 3 and has a slope of 1/4. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is remember, what is point slope form? Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, you might have some trouble remembering this at first. That's okay. Use your notes if you have to while you're working on your homework. But eventually, you should get comfortable enough with this formula that you just remember it. It's just second nature to you. So it's okay if you're not there right now, but work on internalizing this formula so that you don't have to look at your notes every time. Okay, alrighty. Now, I have a point. This point is x1, y1. So that's where x1 and y1 come from. They come from the point that the problem gives us. And my slope is 1/4. So I can use this point and this slope to gather the information I need. x1 is -8. y1 is 3. And the slope, or m, is 1/4. Now, plug them in. Shove them in to our formula for point slope form. So we have y minus y1 is 3 equals m which is 1/4, times x minus x1 is -8. Okay, and I did that kind of fast, so let's do that again. I have y minus y1. What is y1? Well, it's the y coordinate of my point, of the point that the problem gives me. So it is 3. Equals m. Remember, this is slope, and they told us the slope is 1/4, times x minus x1. And x1 is the x coordinate of the point that they gave us, which is -8. Now, am I going to leave it like this? Let's clean it up a little bit. Remember, minus a negative means positive. So I have x plus 8. And there you go. That's it. It is in the form, point slope form. So we're good to go. Now, one thing I want to point out is that y1 is positive 3, but we have y minus 3. And x1 is -8, but we have x plus 8. And yes, it is true that it should be the opposite. So because I'm taking y minus y1, if y1 is positive 3, I have y minus 3. And because I have x minus x1, if x1 is negative, minus a negative is positive, so I have x plus 8. And if that was confusing, don't worry about it. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that even though they're kind of opposites, we still are doing things correctly. Okay, Peachy, let's make sure that we were correct. Okay, yeah, y minus 3 equals 1/4 times x plus 8. Perfect, that's what we got. So we are correct. And we are ready to move on to our next example. Now remember that our learning target and success criteria had 2 parts to it. The first part was, what is point slope form? Can I write an equation in point slope form? So we did. We did the first part of our learning target and success criteria. We know that this is point slope form, and we wrote an equation in point slope form. Now the second part of our learning target and success criteria was being able to change between, if I have point slope form, can I put that in slope-intercept form? So now, example 4 is, I'm starting with point slope form, and I'm going to turn that in to slope-intercept form. So, example 4 says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the point -4, 2 and has a slope of 1/2. So in the end, I want y equals mx plus b. At the very end, I want y equals mx plus b. But can I go straight there? Can I go straight to y equals mx plus b? Well, I know the slope, but I don't know what the intercept is. Now I could solve like we did in the third part of 4.1. I could take y equals 1/2 x plus b and plug in this point and solve for b. I could do that. I'm going to show you another way in case you were like, ugh, solving for b is gross, it's awful. I'm going to show you another way. And it just so happens to be the connection between point slope and slope-intercept form. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in point-slope form. Now remember, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So, remember the y1 and the x1 come from the point that they gave us. So -4 is x1 and 2 is y1. And of course, m is our slope, just like 4.1. So we have y minus y1 is 2 equals 1/2, because slope is m, times x minus x1 is -4. And remember, minus a negative comes together and becomes positive. Okay, now we're going to change this and we're going to put it in the form y equals mx plus b. So, first thing I need to do, and I'm going to zoom in so we can see a little bit better, I need to get rid of these parentheses. How can I get rid of these parentheses? When I had like 2 times x plus 1, remember I did my distribution rainbows. So we did 2 times x and 2 times 1. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to do 1/2 times x. Well, that's 1/2 x, right? Just like 2 times x is 2x. 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. And 1/2 times 4. 1/2 times 4 is the same thing as 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Okay, and we have y minus 2 equals 1/2 x plus 2. Now we are so close. Look, we have y minus 2 equals like mx plus b, kinda, sorta. That's not b, but it's in that form. The right side of the equation is looking pretty good. But the left side, I have y minus 2, and I only want y on the left side. Y is the only thing on the left side in y equals mx plus b. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the y by itself. And I'm going to add 2 to both sides of the equation. So that gets rid of it on the left side, and I get y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And there we go. That looks exactly like y equals mx plus b. M is 1/2, and the y-intercept is 4. Now, in case I did that a little too quickly for you, let's walk through it again. We got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's our point slope form. And then we distributed the slope. We multiplied 1/2 times x, 1/2 times 4. And that got us y minus 2 equals 1/2 x plus 2. And then we wanted y by itself, because in slope-intercept form, y is by itself. So in order to get y by itself, we needed to add 2 to both sides of the equation. That gets rid of it on the left. 2 plus 2 is 4, and boom. We have y equals mx plus b. Now we have slope-intercept form. Okay, awesome. That is all I have for you today. What I would like you to do now is rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 3, just like usual, where 1 is like you're so confused and 3 is like, oh, I totally get it. So, remember that there are two pieces to our learning target and success criteria. So when you're assessing yourself, I want you to think about both parts of the learning target and success criteria. First, how does point slope form feel? Are you a 1, 2, or a 3 for point slope form? Then, what about example 4, when we were changing from point slope to slope intercept? How did that feel? So give yourself 2 different ratings for the first and the second parts of our learning target and success criteria. And if you're a 1, reach out to your teacher, ask some questions, talk to a friend, talk to your parents, something like that. And if you're a 3, reach out to some of your other friends, or tell your parents about what you've learned. Yes, awesome. Cool. Thank you for assessing your learning. Let's show you the practice problems that you can do to practice the skills that you have learned in this video. So now these problems are like example 1. In the second example that we did, we just took point slope form and we changed it to slope intercept form. So the problems for example 2 are change these to slope intercept form. And then you'll get all the practice that you need on the second example that we did. Awesome. Okay, and as always, let's end our video with a launch. So today's launch comes from Dolly Parton, and she is a famous country singer. And she says, if you don't like the road you're walking, start paving another one. I love this quote because in high school, I didn't like the road that I was walking. I was lonely. I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends. I did not like the road that I was walking, but I didn't know that I had the power to pave another one. I thought, man, my home life isn't great. Man, I don't have many friends. Whatever. Sad. And sure, you can think that, but I would have been so much happier of a person if I had taken my life into my own hands and said, oh, I don't have very many friends. I would like to change that. Let me ask people to hang out. Let me make friends. Let me talk to other people. I don't like my home life. Let me, talk to my parents and my siblings about that and change or try to change the ways that we interact. Like, let me pave my own road. Let me take control of my life. And so often we think, especially at the high school age, we think that we can't control and we can't control our circumstances, but we think we can't control anything. We think that life just happens to us. Like, oh, everything that happens just happens to us and I have no control. And you don't have control over your circumstances. You don't have control over other people, but you do have control over how you feel and what you think. You can control the way that you feel and you can control the things that you choose to think. So, if you don't like the road you're walking, if you don't like how you're feeling, pave another one. Make your own way and make your life what you want it to be, not what you think it should be or what you think it has to be, because it doesn't have to be anything. It can be whatever you want it to be. So, that is my launch for you today. Take it with you as you go throughout your day. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Bye!